on football, Austin FC, our pride. CG&E will take you on this ride. Week by week, side by side. In section 1, 2, 3, we're the rowdiest in town. The Pirates team and Uncle Dave, the big fudge all around. We sing our songs, we chant as one. The thicket in the match day's just begun. In the north end, we stand together. Through every game, through any weather. From the first whistle to the final blow. The north end will never let go. One, two, three, four. Green smoke, green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to yet another Green Smoke Emergency live stream here in the North End. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. Sitting here on a Tuesday, the week of Christmas Eve, tomorrow, and Roto giving us an early Christmas present. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm excited, man. This is a really, really good get. This dude is a very good player, and he's going to add a lot to this team, particularly with his flexibility, his versatility. I'm excited about this get, man. So Christmas come a little early. Roto and the staff up there cooking, doing a good job. Ready to talk about it.
As anybody tuned in here on the live stream or on the replay can tell, I'm playing on the road here today because it is Christmas week. So I had some travel here in the office of my soon-to-be father-in-law. So you see all kinds of, there's like a Sherlock Holmes hat right there, like a whole bunch of TCU stuff, man. So, we got the different background here today. And I did have, my adapters, my Rode mic and all that stuff set out, and I forgot it at home. So my audio coming through my headphones today. So apologies for the dip in audio quality. Let's check in on our friends here. We see our buddy P Mike there. Mike, one half of the North End Pirates. I see Brian in there as well. We got the entire group of North End Pirates there. Sierra Deuce in here. That's who Ron Mexico is. Good to see the Trefoil, Jake in here, Jorge, Hudson. I see Mackie in here, so better leave some dollars for these Casemiro rumors. As we're starting off here, what do you think about that? Because the Casemiro, quote unquote rumors, I don't know if I even passed that on to you because I read that SI article and I think that is 100% BS. But did you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I synced it. We're talking about switching to this 2-4 build. The likelihood of that, I know that this move here isn't tapping into our GAM. So not a full-fledged, guaranteed we're switching to a 2-4. It seems unlikely to me. I didn't read too much into it. I think I got into a conversation with one of our buddies. I think it was Jake, in comments about it. And I was just like, I don't know if I can see it happening. So I'm not putting too much stock into that one.
Yeah. Well, for me, it wasn't necessarily that Austin wouldn't be in the market for a player like that if they came available. But the article was like the guy is still under contract at Man U, and like in the article it says he's had some interest from the Saudi league, but maybe he lands in MLS, and then it gives 3 teams where he could maybe land. So like it wasn't even like a sourced rumor. It was just like, hey, here's a an article for some clicks. So that was my read on that. I see, and our buddy Tom in here as well saying now Tadeo Allende rumors swirling here this morning. So that is also interesting. But we're here to talk about the acquisition of Joseph Rosales. He been in the chat as well. Justin saying the Allende rumors true, and I do think that has more legs. The Tadeo Allende rumors, right? Winger, under contract with La Liga side Celta de Vigo, spent last season on loan with Inter Miami, and was one of the main reasons why they stampeded to the MLS Cup title. That I think has some legs, but when you're in the battle reportedly with Inter Miami and with River Plate for his services, that is a tougher cookie to crack there, contract-wise, I think.
Yeah, I think that one definitely has legs, and one that I'm probably more excited about than Casemiro. I know that, he's had a storied career. He's 33 now, but Allende, man, watching him, didn't he break the record for most goals in the playoffs? He had like fucking 9.
I think it was 9, yeah. I think 9 of 11 goals. I'm not sure if he had 11 in the regular season or that was total, but I mean, he was, and again, like when you have Messi next to you, like we've done the, like, let's go get a winger who played with Messi before, and it didn't work out that great this season. So, but Allende, a little bit different from Robert Taylor.
Yeah, and I mean, the finishing ability was the thing that was most impressive to me. Like, yes, he got some fantastic balls, and obviously the gravity of Messi is going to pull some defenders away from him, but like his ability to finish was pretty impressive, and that would be something that I would be probably more excited about, and I think fits the profile of this roster a bit better than a Casemiro right now. So we'll see what plays out, but I think that's what I said to you when you sent that to me. It was like, oh, you're competing with River and Miami. That's going to be tough.
Yeah. So also see Mason in the chat. Good to see Mason. Good to see Capricia. Hey, happy belated KP. It was birthday yesterday for KP. So look, everybody's having a birthday here in December. Good to see Linda as well, saying so excited for next season. And yeah, man, I don't know. After the last 7 days, I don't know how you can't at least be building up a little bit of that spark, getting ready for the 2026 Austin FC season. But like I said a couple minutes ago, let's focus on the player that Austin FC actually acquired here today, and that is Joseph Rosales. So we talked about this on Sunday's regularly scheduled episode, that this report came out from Tom Bogert and the Pioneer Press up there in Minnesota on Friday evening that this deal was near, and now the club confirming it here this morning, that Austin has acquired Honduran international defender, and this is the club's words, defender/midfielder, Joseph Rosales, from, of course, Minnesota United, via the cash for player trade, like you talked about a few minutes ago. 1.5 million was what Austin FC shelled out in this trade. And then Rosales signed a new deal with the team here today. And that deal is guaranteed through June 2029, right? So that is the 28-29 regular season. And then he has an option for the 29-30 season. So I guess that was kind of my first question, when we were thinking about this weekend, looking at the current contract he was on with Minnesota, the number in the, and we were not even certain, right, if it was a GAM trade or a cash for, because it seemed like Tom Bogert was maybe a little bit uncertain there with his reporting. But now we've got it here, cash for player trade, new contract for Joseph Rosales. What do you make of all this?
I'm excited, man. He is a good player. And, again, the implications of what's happening with the roster, because I think there's a lot more to be done. We look at the positions that he can play, primarily a fullback, but he can switch to that midfield. Obviously, we know we made some upgrades. Upgrades at the defensive line, getting John Bell over Julio. His, propensity to be on the left side of the field, potentially play some left back. We already know we got Biru over there. We got Kalmanich over there. Yeah, Adam Rosales, man. But this is a very offensively minded fullback who can do a lot of things on the ball. I'm looking at his FB ref stuff right now, man, and 3.5 goal creating actions per 90. That is impressive. He knows how to distribute. He's got a bit of a nice little touch on that left foot for when he's shooting, but he is a really good guy to have to move the ball up the field. I saw Brian's comment in there a little earlier about our potential counterattack ability. This is a guy who really, really improves that aspect of our game here.
Yeah, right. Solid defender, and I think just as solid going forward. And I got some of his. These are the 2024 Joseph Rosales highlights, so season before this last one, and like looking at what some of the Loons fans were saying on message boards and in replies to different tweets about the move. Right, it does seem like in their eyes he had a little bit of a down season. But I think there are some reasons for that. Some we touched on Sunday's episode when we were kind of dancing around this rumor. So let's just kind of talk about his bio here real quick. 5'11", 161, right? Left back, left wing back, left mid, defensive mid. The team also said box to box midfielder is in his bag positionally. Born in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, and actually began his professional career with Independiente, and that's in the Panamanian League. That was 2018, right? And Rosales 25 years old right now. He was then loaned from Independiente to Minnesota United in the summer window of 2021. So from 2021 in August, when he made his debut there for the Loons, through the end of 2022, made 30 total appearances for the Loons, and he actually made his first MLS start at Q2 Stadium against Austin FC, April 10th, 2022. And then prior to the 2023 season, signed a 1+2 contract to become a Minnesota player officially. And then he was kind of like, you talk about left backs and multiple contract extensions. He was signed to an additional contract extension in July of 2024, which was 3 years guaranteed with a 2028 option. So at the time of the trade, that was the deal that he was on. And of course, Austin signing him to that new deal here today. Anything else for you kind of on the bio? Because I do want to talk about what was kind of the tumultuous season for him in 2025. And I know we've got some other folks joining us here in the comments.
I mean, you look at the last two games he played, right? He's lining up for Honduras, starting, playing 90. I know they're not one of the more premier teams at the international level, but this is a dude who can really play, man. I'm excited about this kid.
Yep.
Another left footer. Interestingly enough, we're just loading up on these left-footed dudes on the left side of the ball here. But I think, one of my main takeaways here is the positional flexibility that he has. And then you pair that with what the press release said and all the things that they were kind of hinting at and highlighting at. I can't remember which player we were talking about at this point that had something interesting in their press release. Oh, talking about the potential for the 2-4 GAM build.
Right.
And kind of hinting at that. So I don't know. They're getting a little spicy with these press releases here.
Yeah. Dropping some hints there, right? Yeah. And keeping us on our toes. And Hudson following up saying it was 20 total goals for Allende with Inter Miami last year. It was 11 in the regular season and that record-setting 9 in the playoffs. We see Roti in here saying, let's fucking go, Rosales, and loving this young blood infusion. And
I'm right there too. I like the youth kind of movement we've seen here with these guys. Obviously, we talked about John Bell being the elder statesman at 28 years old with the most recent signings. We like that.
Yeah, and Spence in here also asking, a guaranteed starter for Joseph Rosales? I think so. But again, like the more guys we add, without getting that like chance creator in the midfield that we all think we need, it doesn't do anything to alleviate my confusion on how we're going to align next year with the formation, who's going to play where. Well, and I think ultimately, if we are able to finish out the offseason strong, there is still so much time here, a little under 2 months until the season opener. And again, a couple weeks until those international windows open throughout, various dates in January around the world. There is still so much that can happen. And now that we've added this flurry of players over the last week, dude, I also think like outbound moves, potentially not just buyouts, are coming. I agree. And I think we need to talk about the potential left back logjam that we have here now.
I agree, man. And that's something that this, we were already kind of wondering about that. And now bringing this dude in makes it even more of a topic of discussion for us, because there is a bit of a logjam over there. But again, this dude can move around a lot. Like, he can play right wing back as well, and my frustrations last year with Johnny in particular, this is a big, big upgrade over Johnny if you're going to see him on that right side.
Yeah. Well, so this past season, right, we talked about the suspension for violating the league's anti-discrimination policy, and I do want to touch on that here in a moment. But I think the rough season started, at least in terms of his appearances on the pitch, with a hamstring injury that happened in the season opener there for the Loons. Rosales, it caused him to miss 4 games. And that, I think, is what opened the door for Anthony Markinick to kind of step in there and really challenge him and sometimes start over Rosales at left back for the Loons. And then it was in May where he was suspended for those 3 games. It was Emmanuel Sabi, right, Whitecaps winger, who accused him of using that, I think, a racial slur. And then he was ultimately suspended for those 3 games. But I have the statement from Joseph Rosales here, E. So I just wanted to, this is how he responded to that suspension. I just wanted to read it out here on the live stream. Rosales said, "I am addressing the recent 3-game suspension issued by the league. I want to be clear. I did not use any discriminatory language. However, I acknowledge that my actions contributed to escalating tensions on the field, and for that, I sincerely apologize to the opposing player and to everyone affected. While I disagree with the league's decision to suspend me because I believe it was based on a misinterpretation, I respect their process and their commitment to fostering a safe and inclusive environment. I have always taken this situation seriously and am committed to doing everything I can to support a respectful, inclusive game." So again, the only people who know what went on are the guys that were out there on the field. I guess you would think, because the league has those on-field mics everywhere. So maybe some people in the league office know what was said as well. But the time was served with the suspension. And I also saw this that he posted right as the trade was announced here today. This is a farewell message to the Loons Club and the Loons fans. And Rosales said, "Through this message, I want to say goodbye to each and every one of you, the fans who were always there every step of the way, my teammates, and the club's staff. I have nothing but words of gratitude. All these years at the club helped me grow as a professional, but above all, as a person. Today, I stopped defending this jersey, but I will never stop supporting you or wishing you the greatest success. There are unforgettable memories that I will carry with me for the rest of my life, as well as everything I learned and the friends I made along the way. Thank you for all your affection, and for making me feel that this has been my home since the day I arrived. Joseph." And I think, I'm interpreting this in that second paragraph where they bold and italicized professional and person when him talking about growing as a professional in person, that he is addressing not only that suspension, but also a red card he got in the first round series against Seattle when he headbutted Jesus Ferreira, which, you do that in Austin, people are going to love you more probably. But, again, it was a season, I think, to forget for Joseph Rosales from a disciplinary standpoint. And I did make sure, for our purposes, E, that he did not get that red card in the Loons' final playoff game. So he is eligible for our season opener.
For sure. And I think another thing to talk about with I'll address the bit of a tumultuous season for him here.
Sure.
There was, I think it might've been Verde Nation who I saw this from, but they tried to move him, to a La Liga team, right? And they tried to move him over to Europe, where he had interest from those 2 teams. And they talked about keeping him for Leagues Cup and how he wanted to go and felt that was a little bit unfair. Apparently, Ramsey said, we're keeping you until at least after Leagues Cup. So that didn't go through. So you have a bit of a falling out with the front office and everything when you have an opportunity like that in front of you. So I think that might have contributed to it. As far as, the suspension goes, I wasn't there. I don't know what was said. And, obviously that's not something that we should condone for sure, but his career can't end because of it. His life can't end because of it. And, seeing him trying to move on and develop himself as a person is great, man. And again, he seems pretty staunch in his rebuff of saying something that was discriminatory. So again, a bit of a he said, she said situation. So hopefully he's able to move on from that. And, I can't judge it too much if I don't know what was said, but like I did see the headbutt, right? And like I did mention when this first kind of came across the desk, he does have a little bit of a temper. And I remember watching that play distinctly. And it was interesting because he talked about not stopping the escalation with Sabi. And it was the same thing that happened with Jesus there. Like they both kind of went at it. They got tied up a little bit, and then he took it to another level, got himself suspended. Obviously something that's detrimental to your team and not something that you want to do, hurt your team there. So hopefully the professional and personal development continues with him, but he's a good player, man. He really is a good player.
Yeah, I think there's no question about that. And I think that he will be somebody that pretty easily endears himself to the Austin FC faithful next season. I think that goes for kind of all three of the MLS level acquisitions that we've made, right? Because it's those three guys, John Bell, Jaden Nelson, now Joseph Rosales, and Irvin Torres as the four inbound players. And so in total last season, Rosales missed those 4 games due to the hamstring injury at the beginning of the season, then those 3 to suspension in May, and 4 total to international duty, right? Because at the senior international level, Rosales has made 34 appearances for his native Honduras. And he started all of the Honduras matches at the Gold Cup, where they had the I think it was the quarterfinal upset, reached the semis there. And he also appeared in 9 of the 10 World Cup qualifiers that Honduras had in this last cycle. And that's another thing, if you think about, right, those 3 acquisitions over the last calendar week, right? All on the left side, all first names that start with J. and you can include Irvin Torres in this. All 4 of our inbound players are international level players, right? Because we saw John Bell with Jamaica. We know Jaden Nelson has been in and out of the Canadian senior team. And now Joseph Rosales and Irvin Torres, right, is still at that youth level with the U.S. system. So these are all 4 guys that we could be missing in international windows. And I think that's just something that's a little interesting to point out. But I think, right, like Brian bringing this up in the comments as well, he says, love that we're getting the guys in their mid to lower 20s, and that our national team players, they're always going to be one of the best, even in the lower ranked countries. And I think that is spot on by B there.
Yeah. I mean, you look at all 3 of these dudes that you brought in, right? You got younger, you got faster, you got more athletic. I know we lost arguably the fastest player in the league, but when you talk about totality here, with these 3 guys, you got younger, more athletic, and faster. And that's awesome to see. Talk about this new contract with him, having him through 29. Again, you have, the structure that you want moving forward. And we're not done. I think talking about what could be coming down the pipeline in regard to buyouts, moving players on is all in play here. And then looking once more to getting that chance creating midfielder that's going to feed these guys. And, I was thinking about this earlier, bringing him in obviously, and the fact that we haven't yet addressed that chance creator, but this dude is someone who can push the ball up the field, progress the ball up the field really well. And it seems to me that they're going to be committed to making this Mir2 BV thing work. And, these are some exciting young players who are going to have to feed both of those guys. So we'll see how it looks, man.
Brian, don't text us fantasy football questions in the middle of the stream while you're in the comments too, dude. Look, hey, if you're asking us questions, that probably means you're in your championship game. So we will get back to you on that. Rosales ends his Loons tenure with 5 goals and 18 assists across his 128 appearances. That's all comps. One of those 5 goals was against us at Q2 in 2023. So I think Rosales already has some decent memories playing at Q2, his first MLS start in 2022, scored one of his 5 Loons goals there in 2023. And then, of course, this year, the Loons had a blast when they came down to Central Texas. Mm-hmm. Our worst loss, certainly regular season, right? You go 4-1 against LAFC to close out the playoff series. But, hopefully many more good memories to come for Rosales at the Q. And so Tom also trying to get us back on track here and move us along, saying, y'all may have said this already, but does the cash for player trade, right, or cash for, as we like to call it, does that count against the salary cap like a transfer fee? And the answer is yes. Right. So let's talk about these new terms, right? Signing through the end of that 28-29 season with the 29-30 option, that 1.5 million spent to acquire the player in the cash for will be applied to the player's salary budget charge. But I believe now with the longer contract, that will smooth it out, right? Amortize it over the length of the longer deal, which will bring that budget charge annually down, right? We won't know what Austin FC is paying him in terms of his guaranteed compensation, but the cash for that 1.5 million will be spread out over the duration of the contract. I think depending on that salary, it doesn't lock in that Rosales is a TAM player, but I think it benefits us cap-wise where the roster sits right now. It benefits us cap-wise to bump him over that 803 per year right now, right? That's the new for this coming season. That's the new max budget charge where you get into that TAM range, because once you get above that max budget charge, you can then apply the TAM all the way down to a budget charge of 150K, just like GAM, right? You just can't commingle the two types of allocation money. And we know we have that boatload of GAM, or TAM rather, just sitting there unused now with no Julio Cascante. So I think he will end up as a TAM player here, but I reserve the right to change that opinion based on moves that may or may not come here over the next 6 to 8 weeks as we, rumble through the preseason, which training camp in 2 weeks, dude.
Bonkers. I'm assuming he's a TAM player as well, and I'm fine with that. I want this money spent. Is it the giant splash, Marco Royce or Mueller kind of get? No, but I talked about wanting to get younger and not being like full on being like, yeah, I want a 35-year-old, who's coming over from a top league. Not that I would, scoff at that for sure.
Right.
But I think we have to use this TAM. It hasn't been something that we've, allocated very well in our tenure here in Austin. But I think this is a dude that is worthy of being on that TAM contract, particularly if you look at, who we had on there last year.
I'm just kidding. I can't ignore my notifications right now, dude, because just so much stuff is flying from Austin FC. It's like I don't want to miss the next rumor, but I just saw Cam Whitmore blood clots. I don't know what the hell is going on in the NBA with that, man. But yeah, getting back on track here. So we pulled up the roster sheets here. Those are updated at the northendpodcast.com. Of course, we won't know the actual budget charge for Rosales, but we can see the roster breakdown here. And now up to 19 senior slots filled of the available 20. You've still got those 4 supplemental slots sitting vacant. Still all 8 of our international slots taken. And a DP and a U22 slot currently available. And like I was mentioning earlier, dude, like I said on our last live stream, and I think on Sunday's episode, as the roster stands today, I still think it's more likely we end up 2-4 GAM, but it's by no means a slam dunk guarantee. If you end up with a 3-3 build here, right, and you do bring in a DP to replace Osman Bukhari, I think that goes hand in hand with selling one of Danny Pereira or Owen Wolf. And maybe we can look at some of these comparison charts from FBref and make some educated guesses here. Also, throwing this into the mix now of potential guys we could sell and or trade within the league, because with the cash furs, right, which came into play, I believe, in the middle of the 2024 season is when that rule was implemented, if I'm not mistaken. Each team can make 2 inbound and 2 outbound cash furs per season, right? Those are all intra-league moves, those cash furs. So Austin can only acquire one more player with a cash fur for 2026, but we still have those 2 potential outbounds. And now you've got, right, dude, if you put Kolmanic, Biru, and Rosales next to each other on paper, I think our new acquisition is the best left back of the bunch.
It would hurt me to say it.
I know.
It really would. As it stands right now, it would be Rosales, Biru, Kolmanic in my book. And if you're an avid listener of the North End here, you know how much I love Guilherme. He's my favorite player on the team.
You were trying to get Steph into the fan club.
But Rosales, man, is a really, really good get. And talking about potential move-ons, man, we talked about the interesting nature of Kolmanic's stay here with Austin, being on the U22, getting an extension, moving to the senior roster, getting another extension, not really knowing why, and then seeing him come on last year and have his best season. And I think, while I was a bit hesitant to admit, or not admit, but just, point out the reality that I do think Rosales is a better player than Guilherme right now. Guilherme has gotten better every single season, in my opinion. Is he still a flawed player, particularly on the defensive side of the ball? Yes, he can get lost. He doesn't have the best defensive awareness at times, but the dude's a gamer. And I love that in a player. And we know his offensive abilities, his creativity on that side of the ball. And then you look at Kolmanic and the way that he came on last season, really being a specialist kind of guy that we were like, hey, I'm not sure if you can keep him off the field right now, because you find yourself in certain situations where you're pressing to get a goal, you're looking to move up the field or getting some good service into the box. And that's the number one dude we have, in my opinion, particularly on that back line, to do that. So you have a bit of a logjam here, but again, Rosales can move around quite a bit. We talked about the midfield being able to move up into that position. The press release saying a box-to-box kind of midfielder guy. Is that what they see from him? And that puts a little credence, in my opinion, to a potential Danny Owen move. And, I think of the two, I would say Danny is more probable right now to be moved on from, because I think he's at that point where it's like, if you're going to make that move to Europe or somewhere that's a bit larger, you're reaching that point where it's like, is this going to happen? You know what I mean? I talked about earlier, maybe having him be a guy who's, plays for Austin for 10 years, 12 years, staying here. And how I would enjoy that, because I love Danny as a player. But I think he would be the most likely of the two. We still have talked about at length our buyout potential players for buyout. And if the Allende thing comes through, then you have to be looking at Hot Air and Robbie Taylor as the two guys that you got to get rid of. It would become much more likely, in my opinion, if the Allende thing does come to fruition here. Is that a position we're targeting? I'm not entirely sure. We're all, again, looking for that chance creating midfielder, but Rosales creates a lot of chances. As I mentioned right at the top, shot creating actions per 90, 3.5, puts him in the top 94th percentile versus those fullbacks. I don't know exactly what he's in he would be in the category of the other major leagues right there. Or
are you talking about in terms of his FB ref stuff here? Yeah, it's the next 14 competitions, right? So it's outside of the big 5 there. Okay. But I do want to look at some of those stats that you've got on your second screen there, because I think we can make some interesting comparisons with some of our guys. And before we do want to check in on the chat, because our friends are weighing in here. Mason was saying, based on this, he's expecting a Biru plus Danny or Owen sale, and pointing out that Biru jettisoned would open an international slot. I also wouldn't be surprised. I think I've said this over the last couple of weeks at some point, that I wouldn't be surprised if Biru was one of the guys that did get a green card if he stays on the roster. Just because he's been here for a while, and we know his contract, I think, guaranteed for 2 more seasons. Brian saying Rosales better than Biru, but move Biru to left center back. And that's something that I was thinking that I want to talk about here when we've got this comparison chart. It's good to see our buddy TJ in here saying, if we lose Big Tex and Biru, and look, he's Big Tex catching on. Hey. We riot. See our buddy the Acid Bath in the house saying Danny makes the most sense to ship out to him. And I think this is a point that we don't want to have to talk about, but I think it's a good one that Mason brings up, that sad to say, Danny might also be politically motivated to leave, right? With the developments that we were talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then Brian says, hate to tell you this, TJ, he's got a better left foot than Big Tex. And TJ says, I'm just emotional. So,
Aren't we
you know,
all?
we can get emotional here in the North End as well. So let's take a look at some of Rosales' stats. You can see the charts there on his FBref scouting report, right? You can click over fullbacks or midfielders. And I tell you, you go between the two, and he grades out pretty well in both positions. And again, this is only about 1,500 minutes played over the last 365 days. So you would want a guy like Rosales in this move. You would want him to be playing more for an Austin FC next year. So you can see this a little bit bigger. His fullback ranks, right? You see the attacking stats, the possession stats are the ones that really jump off the screen. And, you know, not too much in terms of the clearances, blocks, interceptions, right? You like to see that tackles number up there, because you would imagine he'd be dueling with some of the better right wingers in the league if he's out there wide left defensively for us. But like I mentioned, man, you switch it over to midfield, and again, like, a fairly well-rounded player. And I like to see the progressive carries and passes received up in the 90th percentile, 93rd, 95th, successful take-ons, 96th, right? So you see these numbers in the midfield as well. And I think, again, it's not like we're the first ones just talking about Joseph Rosales here, but backing up what you were saying, that this guy is just so damn solid and a great get on paper. And you can see it in the highlights as well, and our experience watching him mostly beat our favorite team over the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's an aggressive player, man. And like, he likes to get up the field. And like, we have a bit of an affinity for left backs that want to get up the field, obviously, with Biru as well. Can we pull up the Biru comparisons a little bit here?
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. That's what I said earlier, is like, this is a very offensively minded player. Like, he gets up the field, and he's definitely better on the ball than Guilherme in regard to taking players on one-on-one. As you can see here, those numbers are pretty staggering to look at. But overall, he's a better player than both of those guys at the left back position. Again, are we switching formations? It's something that I have been talking about for a long time here, potentially looking at this 5-back. And how we looked with it. And did we have the personnel last year to really thrive in that? And now you bring in the John Bell. Now you get Jaden Nelson here. Now you get Joseph Rosales here. It's all signaling to me that we're going to be really focused on that 5-back with a potential 2-striker look, because we know once BV's healthy, we're going to have to find a way to play both those guys at the same time. And Mirtu was lost on the left wing position last year. And I don't know if moving him to the right wing with the departure of Buka makes a lot of sense. Obviously, with Nelson, who can play left wing, primarily a left winger there. I don't know if that's the move. So I am thinking you're going to be seeing a 5-back look with a potential 2-striker, maybe a 3-4-1-2, something along those lines. But Rosales is a good player, man. And like, we've had the opportunity to watch a lot of minutes of him versus when we've played Minnesota, and he's been a player that I've been worried about every single time. You know what I mean? Yeah. We talked about their ability to counterattack, how fast that team was, the way that the style that they played, very, very low in possession, but hit you quick, want to get up and down. And he fits that profile really, really well.
Yeah, and I think going back to Brian's comment about moving Biru to that left center back, if you're running the 3 center back look consistently next year, right? And again, these are Guilherme's stats compared to other fullbacks. So you see those defensive numbers with the clearances, blocks, interceptions, and particularly the latter two, right? Clearances can just indicate that you're taking on water and not a very good team. But the blocks and interceptions, right? He certainly did his job there. And you can see that Rosales excelling more in the offensive and possession categories. And then I also think, right, you compare him to Jean Kolmanich, and these guys are much more similar at the fullback position statistically. And so I think Kolmanich might be, if you're going to sell or trade one of those 2 left backs that we already have on the roster, Kolmanich might be, I would say I would favor him, because I don't think we feel comfortable sliding him in at center back. And we know that in a pinch, we can put Guilherme inside there. But I also don't think it's this to me does not scream that it's like the most likely outcome that we move one of those guys on. because of the way the club is saying, deep line midfielder, box to box midfielder, like highlighting his flexibility. Dude, technically you could go with the 5 back. Like, I'm not saying I want this, but you could go Biru left center back, Jean left wing back, and Rosales is one of those deeper lying midfielders or box to box guys, and get all 3 on the pitch and probably not feel too terrible about it. So I do think, again, like, not a hot take. It's something to watch if we move one of those 2 guys on, but I don't think it's guaranteed. I don't even necessarily think, again, that it's the most likely outcome.
Yeah, I mean, you could even go John Bell at left center back and then Guilherme out to the left wing back, or Komanich out there. Shout out Big Tex, man. There's definitely more to come, and we're going to have to just be patient and see what this is going to look like and build. But hinting at the midfield ability, man, that makes me perk up a little bit with this comparison. It really does. Again, I don't think it's a guarantee that we're moving, one or both of Guilherme or Komanich, but when they're talking about and really pushing this narrative of his ability to play in the midfield, this is where my mind goes. And if you're talking about your return on investment, this is what you're going to be getting the most back for. If you're talking about a potential move from Danny P, Guilherme, and Big Tex there, you're getting the most for Danny.
Yeah, you would think, right? You would think.
And unless someone's just absolutely in love with either of those 2 players, I don't see how it wouldn't be almost a guarantee.
Yeah. Well, I did pull up the comparison here in the midfield between Rosales and Danny, and you could, dude, you put the 2 players together, it's like one of the best midfielders in the league, maybe, just by this chart, right? Danny filling in a lot of those passing numbers that Rosales lacks, but again, in terms of his midfield comparison.
That's a bit of a stylistic thing too there. You know what I mean? Like, Minnesota did not play how we were more possession based at a lot of times with Danny in that midfield there, whereas Rosales, they were trying to just get up and down and go. So we love looking at this kind of stuff, but there is much more context to go into this. And when we saw the Guilherme clearances, blocks, and interceptions, and talked about his potential, or not potential, his lack of defensive awareness, that was also because we were taking on a ton of action on that side of the ball. He just had to be in those moments.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I brought up Ilie's comparison here, and I think what this says to me, right, is that you want to see Ilie being phased out next year. Not completely, right, but just less minutes than we had to rely on him for last year. And last year, we could have probably used even more Ilie than we saw, given the state of our midfield, where Duber was not ready to be game in, game out. Vesard Sabovic lost his mind, became a different player, it seems, when he landed here for his first season. So those are other names, not Duber or Ilie, but I think Sabovic is another name, which, would any of us be shocked if we moved on from him this offseason? I certainly wouldn't be. So again, that's just reckless. I'm not going to play the drop. You want to come at me, I'll lawyer up. But Sabovic, again, was not doing it for us either this year. I didn't go look at his comparison chart, but I imagine it's not great.
Yeah, no, I would not be shocked if we moved on from him. And at this point, what are we banking on with him, right? We're banking on the Goss theorem that he just kind of figures it out next year. Because he did not put anything on tape that was oh shit, yeah, we're going to be able to build off of this, man. So I wouldn't be surprised with that. And again, the language in the press release is a bit telling to me.
Yeah. So checking back in on the chat here, see our buddy Jackson saying, hey, looks like you guys successfully re-gifted the Moon Tower boys their curse bag. Look, I told you I gave them the gift last week, so you're welcome, Landon and Jeremiah. I know I don't think those guys were happy about all that. Well, I'm sure that, they're good moves, but those guys were planning on taking a week off here for Christmas, I think. And they did bust out a little 40-minute episode they dropped here this morning. Mackie in here saying, chances of a Zuni to Celta Vigo as part of Allende trade. And I think, again, we would take that. That would, Allende is not a guy that you want here on a DP contract.
No.
I think I'm certain of that. So I think very low probability there, Mackie, but I like the way you think. And Spence says, just joined the team and I already trust him taking pins over Azuni. And I might call E's number to go out there and take a pen if we won one here in the preseason. We'll try you out there, E. And Mason saying we also just plucked Biru out of nowhere, and that's
True.
one thing about Biru too, is that I think for both guys I think have signed extensions since they've been here. I think if you sold them on for a profit, that we could turn that into GAM, or of course, right, if you cash for outbound inside the league, then we can do the same. So again, I'm not opposed to moving one of those guys out. Again, I don't think it's overly likely. And so Mason saying, oh boy, Rosales just might be the 6. Well, we'll see, man. He clearly is going to be able to compete at multiple positions. And again, I just think the puzzle is just nowhere near finished here, because we're going to need more outbounds. And we know, like, dude, one of the DP slots or U22 is going to get filled. It's going to.
It fucking better. That's for damn sure. And I'm just salivating at the potential of moving on from Sabovic, buying out Hot Air, opening up 2 international slots, and then working from there, because, and I think, just as I was talking about, banking on the Goss theorem for Sabovic as some kind of Hail Mary that he's going to be able to turn things around. As the season progressed and went on, you saw some stuff out of Dubersarski that was encouraging. That would be the thing for me, where it's like, if you move on from Sabo or potentially Danny, you got to be able to get a bit of a step from Duber and hope that Ilya isn't regressing any more than he did last year.
Yeah. And again, I am still hoping for one of maybe both Ilya and John Bell on the supplemental roster. But again, it could be neither of them. And in that case, then it makes it all the more likely that we're going to see multiple outbound moves, I think, from these senior slots. But I think that is – go ahead.
I was just going to say, with all these moves that we've seen, right, what were they addressing the positional needs that we were looking at as a collective fan base at the start of this offseason? And I think the answer is no, which to me signals that there's either a really large formational stylistic change coming into play here in Austin, or you're going to see some significant departures from this team. Yeah. And like you mentioned here, I am also on board with that. You're absolutely going to see a DP or a U22 get in here as well. And again, there's moves to be made. There's a lot more that's going to happen. And it feels like we've already done so much, because this is what, our 4th live stream at this point.
In a week.
So there's still more to come, man.
Yeah, and again, Brian, like, it could be, if it's 3-3, it could be DP and U22. I want the 2 special slots filled no matter what. If you go 2-4, give me 2 U22 guys. If it's 3-3, fill those 2 slots as well. And I'm glad you brought that up, E, about, like, right, that we haven't necessarily filled all of the slots, or even multiple slots of positions that we thought were the biggest needs here, right? Like, John Bell fits into that Julio side, right? Jayden Nelson makes sense, especially with Buka leaving. We didn't expect Buka to leave, though, so of course we needed a winger. Now I think we need at least one more, right? Because neither you or I feel comfortable going with O'Brien and Taylor as the only 2 other wingers on the roster. But I'm glad you brought that up, because it did jog my memory. Maybe we should not be surprised that Roto is looking for a left back when we don't feel like we need one, because he was doing the same thing in the summer. Remember the Diego Palacios saga? That was weeks, and like, there was so much coming out about that, and the final report on it being that it broke down because the player was holding out for, like, other options. And then by the time he was like, I'm ready to go, Roto was like, well, we're past it, man. We've made other moves or other plans. So Roto was looking for a left back in the summer, reportedly. So maybe we shouldn't be scratching our heads at all at this, because he's felt like he could upgrade that position. And, like, we were saying similar things about Palacios, and I think that's still true, right? Where he was an upgrade on the guys that we have, and Rosales fits that bill as well.
A good point.
I think that's about all I have on this for now, man. About 50 minutes here on the December 23rd Green Smoke live stream. And, like, please, now I know we were kind of half joking on Friday. Please, no more news between now and Christmas. Like, can we at least just have 2 days here? Anything else for you, man, before we shut it down?
Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy holidays. If we don't see you again on a potential another live stream, but Wishing everyone the best. Hope for a safe and happy holiday for everyone.
Yeah, I second all that. My friend couldn't have said it better myself. So we appreciate y'all tuning in, whether you caught it live here on YouTube, you're watching the replay, or you're hearing it on your audio podcast feed. Just want to remind you again, right? If you're watching on YouTube, subscribing to the channel helps us grow the show. I wouldn't ask you every time if that didn't work for us. You can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. Of course, here on this video, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End, and when the audio replay comes out for all you guys here live, you go download that as well. You support us financially. So a little Christmas gift from you to us. Look, we've been working hard, putting about 5 hours of content out this week, I think, something like that, maybe a little short of it, but either way, rambling on here, so I'll sign off from the road venue here. We're back on Sunday, everybody, with the regularly scheduled episode. So enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your holidays. We'll see you then. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.
Green smoke, green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose.